Hey, okay, so this is kind of a different thing. This channel is not normally the type that does numbered lists, but I thought it would be fun to do a numbered list. Tori's already here. Hey. Here's Tori. This is gonna be a little looser, a little more unscripted. I'm gonna do some reckless self-promotion in the middle of it. Look, this is the second video this month. You're getting two, so no complaining. Oh, I hate how carefree and fun Jacob seems in this video. No, stop it. No complaining. These are just some games that I played this year that I really liked. Don't read too much into the order of things. It's not necessarily an order of favorites, it's just an order I thought would be fun to talk about them in. Let's see, I beat just over 30 games for the first time this year. Saw the credits roll or, somehow determined that I had finished with it. However, only about half of those games actually came out this year. And while I would love to make a list where Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days takes the #1 spot, that will have to be a different list from this one. So I'm working from imperfect information here. I haven't played everything. Maybe NBA 2K21 is the best game of this year. I don't know, I just haven't played it. So with all my caveats out of the way, let's get started. So number 8 is a game that I didn't emotionally connect with that much, and it's a weird place to start, but I say that because this game really wants you to emotionally connect with it, and I didn't. But despite that, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is just too much fun to not put on this list. What I love about Ori is just how much game there is there. Sometimes when a game is really beautiful and has a really, well-orchestrated score, we forgive it for not being that fun. But Ori goes completely in the other direction, and it gives you so many tools and so many ways to kind of be creative playing the game that even though I didn't, weep when he found his spider friend or whatever, I still thought it was an amazing game. I actually managed to sequence break it while I was playing. I realized I hadn't got a major ability really early on, but I had just been able to get through the other obstacles so creatively that I found out that it didn't matter. And then at the end, it gets so hard that you have to use all of these things in concert with each other, which I love. I hate when games give you all these tools and then they don't actually ask you to use them, or you never feel like you get to reach the potential. The end levels of Ori are hard. And so when you get to use them all together and really feel like you've mastered everything, it's just a great feeling. So that's number 8, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It's beautiful, and even better, it's a good platformer. Now number 7 is about the farthest from that game you could possibly go, because even though you don't throw a fireball and then use that fireball to jump higher even one time in Kentucky Route Zero, I think it's probably still one of the best games ever made. There's this phrase that I think a lot about in context of Kentucky Route Zero, which comes from Laura Hudson's Wired review of the game, where she writes, "Imagine for a moment the next great American novel was created in the 21st century as a point-and-click adventure game." That's how I feel about Kentucky Route Zero. Not just that I think it's good, but that I want it to become like a cultural touchstone for us. I want kids in English classes to be referencing symbolism in Kentucky Route Zero the way that I was supposed to with the green light in The Great Gatsby. Is that, I haven't read The Great Gatsby. It's just, you know what, I'm gonna read the whole quote from that article because I think it's just, it sums it up better than I could. This is Laura Hudson's Wired review. Kentucky Route Zero has never been a very literal game, which makes it hard to describe in concrete terms, but let's give it a try. Imagine for a moment that the next great American novel was created in the 21st century as a point-and-click adventure game, woven out of Southern Gothic fiction, magical realism, and a techno-mystical understanding of hyper-reality. Imagine it is a tragic ghost story about the American dream where the ghost is the American dream. The tragedy is that it keeps haunting America because it doesn't know it's dead. Not only is it one of the best games I can remember playing in the last decade, it's also created some of the best writing about games that I can remember reading. This is a game that it feels like Noah Caldwell-Gervais has lived his entire life waiting to write about. And then he did, and it's amazing, and you should go watch that video. Tori, if you're gonna be barking, hey. Now number 6 is, oh, this is embarrassing. Do you ever reach for the next game on your top games of the year list and instead you get some official Jacob Geller merchandise available for purchase now? We've all been there. Oh, I was gonna talk about my favorite game, but instead I found this shirt covered in a list of items that cause existential dread. Oh, I was reaching for my Gamer Fuel Monster energy drink, but instead I found this enamel pin of haunted houses, reminding us of who's really haunting who. Oh man, I was just reaching out my hand and it came up with this most beautiful poster I've ever seen, an original painting by Eric Moffat, a piece of art officially approved by Jacob Geller that you can have in your house. I just grabbed it by accident. Oops. Look, this is real and it's so exciting. I can't even tell you how wild it feels to have merch. Anyway, link is down there for everything. Okay, number 6, some of you might say that it's cheating because although Death Stranding released this year on PC, it did release last year on PS4. But look, I remember in 2018 when all of you put Hollow Knight on your favorite games of the year list because it came out on Switch, even though it came out on PC in 2017. So if you don't like it, sue me, it's my list. I'll call up legal real quick. There are a ton of things that I find really impressive about Death Stranding. I think the cutscene direction is legitimately very good. Sometimes. I think the world is incredible. I immensely respect the idea of making a giant AAA video game just so you can include this cool band that you just started listening to. Don't be so serious. It's awesome. And everyone has been talking about this game for, a year and some change already, and that's fine. But one thing that I want to touch on that I haven't seen talked about so much is how effectively it gets you to care about the things that you're carrying. I mean, your first mission in the game is slight spoilers for the first hour here, I guess, carrying your mother's corpse up a mountain. And that's when it's teaching you how to not fall over and stuff. And I don't think there's any more effective way to make you not want to fall over than carrying your dead mom up a mountain. But even after that's done, even when you're just carrying like metals or ceramics or whatever, I don't think that we should take for granted how effectively the game makes you not want to fall over with that stuff. This is actually, it's kind of like the intimacy of everyday objects, that video that I made earlier this year. When you get to invest in the little things in the game, when I care about the stuff that I'm just carrying in my backpack, then I feel like your investment in the whole world skyrockets. Death Stranding, for all its grand ambitions, is a game about little stuff. And I think it's amazing that a AAA game would take that big of a swing. And also, I think "you're the president of jack shit" is an amazing line.
Bridget, you're the president of jack shit.
Sam, listen to me.
I don't care what anyone says. Number 5 is a game that, to quote Simone de Rochefort, is like a slip and slide covered in olive oil. And on top of that, it's a horror game. Carrion is gross and chaotic and disturbing, and I adore it. In Carrion, you play a big tentacly monster and you can kind of swim through the air, and it's partially a stealth game because you actually can't take that many hits before you die, and it's partially a Metroidvania because you're finding new monster abilities to let you go into new places. But what I really like about Carrion is that seemingly every decision is built to put you in the brain of the big monster that you're playing as. Take, for example, how you attack people. There are dudes that will shoot at you and you have to kill them, but there's not really a clear indication of when they're dead. And so you pick them up and you kind of thrash them around. And then sometimes you let them go and they're still alive. And so you have to pick them up and thrash them more. And that leads to you really just like ripping dudes apart in a completely, seemingly over the top way. But you, as the monster, don't have any way of knowing that they're dead except when they're lying in two different halves in different parts of the floor. And so you can imagine the people watching you being like, oh my God, it's just going crazy. But I just needed to know that dude was dead. It builds this weird empathy with the monster. And I think that's so cool. Similarly, and mechanical spoilers for like a later game ability, but you eventually get the ability to possess people. And not only is it animated in a creepier way than I could have possibly imagined, but it gives you that feeling of inhabiting someone and then having that person walk into like a common meeting room and no one else knows you're a monster, and then you just unload on them. It feels really disturbing in a way that I haven't really experienced before. Maybe this is what playing Among Us feels like. I've never played Among Us because AOC wouldn't invite me on her stream and I refuse to learn any other way. But just the feeling of inhabiting something else and having everyone trust you and then breaking that trust, it's gross and it's cool, and that's Carrion. It's just like a unique experience, and I think it's great. Okay, so number 4, speaking of unique experiences, do you remember what it was like to leave your house? Because I'm kind of losing that. My number 4 game is a short experience called
Mýrdalssandur,
Iceland. And it's a very short game where you walk around an environment in Iceland and take pictures of it. Look, I realize it's kind of silly to put this game, which looks a lot like Death Stranding and is 20 minutes long, significantly higher on the list than the actual Death Stranding. But I think the brevity of this game actually really helps it out. In Death Stranding, you spend so many hours running around that landscape that eventually I kind of got desensitized to how beautiful it was. But in this game, every single beat of exploring the landscape really hit for me. I mean, there were moments when I gasped just walking around a corner and seeing the next thing that was there. I don't know, man, this year of all years, I have really appreciated the ability to do some virtual tourism. For some reason, it's really hit for me. Go figure. On the theme of getting out of my brain, HalfLife Alyx is my number 3 game. That rhymed. I hated that. Look, I already talked about HalfLife Alyx a lot earlier this year, but I'm going to talk about it more because something that I just find incredible is how things that are really old hat in traditional video games become wild new experiences in VR. There's this scene in HalfLife Alyx where you just have to walk through a dark building, and you were given a flashlight earlier and it goes on one of your hands. And I've walked through a million dark buildings in video games, but usually when you have like a first-person game, your flashlight is just glued to where your eyes are. And so you looking somewhere else just means that that's where the light goes. But in VR, the light goes where your hand is. And sometimes you might look this way, but the flashlight's still pointing that way, and you realize that you're actually standing in the dark. Or you might have to reload, and then your flashlight hand has to go behind your back and do this, and then the flashlight's not pointing in front of you at all, and who knows what could be there? A zombie, maybe. Something we don't talk about that much in terms of the success of VR is that it's also the success of like really good motion controls. And it's kind of wild to think back to the Wii and think back to playing like carnival games or whatever and be like, no, actually this is where the future of video games are going. It's just gonna take a little while. It's crazy. I love that the most impressive technical experiences I've had this year have been just seeing my hands in virtual space. That's it, that's crazy. Number 2 is a game that I've actually been playing for close to 2 years, but it just hit 1.0, and Hades really got me through some dark times this fall. So I think it deserves to be on here. I mean, what can I even say about Hades that hasn't already been said? Like, Supergiant just doesn't miss. And if you haven't played Pyre, go back and play Pyre, because that game is just as good and people need to play it. But yeah, Hades. Hades is really good too. You can ask a Fury and the God of Death to both step on your neck. And also, every run you do feels overpowered in a different way, so you never feel like you just got like a really trash run. And also, a thing that we should talk about in terms of Supergiant as a whole is that I don't think I've ever played games, like all 4 of their games, that balance weapons as effectively as they do. This is a really specific point, but even in Bastion, every single pair of weapons felt like it had a specific usage and were really good at some things that another pair wouldn't be. And they have kept that going. And in Hades, the difference between my favorite weapon and my least favorite weapon is like this much, you know, that they can make everything fun to play with and rewarding in different ways. And when I think about other games with a lot of weapons, there are none of them that I like all the weapons in equal amount. It's really impressive. You know, I think about the future of game development a lot, and I think that Hades represents an actual sustainable, healthy way of making video games. You know, it's not fully AAA, but it does have 300,000 lines or something insane like that, and I played it for over 100 hours, and I felt fulfilled and having fun the entire time. And also, the employees got to take vacations, and it doesn't seem like it's a massive systems that's just teetering to the point of falling over, which is what every Assassin's Creed I've played for the past 10 years has felt like. I don't know, I think if we had more games like Hades, not only would we all be happy because everyone loves that game, but also I think that game development would be a thing that people could do for decades and not for 5 years until they burned out. Anyway, my number 1 game is a giant AAA video game. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know, I'm selling out. I'm handing in my indie gamer card. But I think the reason that Final Fantasy VII is so high on this list for me is just that I did not ever think I would like a Final Fantasy game this much. You know, I just didn't feel like I got on with the world or the characters or the gameplay, and it turns out that I like all of those things. There's this vibe that so many of the big AAA games have given me this year of just kind of a base layer of cynicism in the world and in the player's actions and in, you know, even kind of you as the player, you know, that it's cool to question all of that. And maybe it is, I don't know, but I think the reason that I connected with Final Fantasy VII Remake so much is that it has none of that, that it's maybe the most sincere game I've played in years. You know, that every character just cares so much, and maybe it's a symptom of this being a 20-year-old game that was brought to 2020, but I find that incredibly refreshing, you know, to just have characters who care about things. And as stated in the video I made earlier this year, which I thought was one of my best videos, but apparently view counts disagreed, the things they care about in this game matter. They matter to me. They care about environmental justice and fighting industry and like economic justice for the people living under the plate. And maybe it's just because this year has sucked so much and I'm so tired of everything trying to be edgy. But hearing a character just say something like this and mean it.
A good man who serves a great evil is not without sin. He must recognize and accept his complicity. He must open his eyes to the truth that his corporate masters are profiting from the planet's pain. Only then can he redeem himself.
Makes me happy to be playing that game in a way that's kind of hard to describe. And also, this game has the best swearing I've heard in a video game in years. It's a fantasy game, and sometimes they say shit, and it's hilarious. Like, I can't believe that they're just dropping bad words. I find it so funny.
You greedy bastard! Scum-sucking piece of shit-festering asshole!
And it's fun. It's fun too. It's really fun to play, and you can play it like a kind of hybrid turn-based game or whatever, but you can also quick assign all of those things to your buttons, and then you can basically play Tifo like she's the next Platinum Games character, and it feels so good like that. It's a fun game to play. Like I said, I'm just baffled that I like this game so much. So that's it. 2020, I had 8 games that I really liked from this year. How do I wrap this up? Look, I don't talk about it a lot other than just like the credits on the videos, but I make these videos because of the support of my patrons, and they are all incredibly good, and I care about you. And also, being a patron at the $3 tier gets you into the Geller Discord server, which is genuinely like the nicest place I have ever found on the internet, and it's full of creatives and thoughtful people, and big shout out to Tails and Bound, who are the eternal mods of the channel and do a better job than I possibly could. And also, we raised $19,000 earlier this year. Do you remember that? I think my brain like shut down around like the 20th hour of playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but you people helped raise almost $20,000 for the Games and Online Harassment Hotline. That's amazing. And also, I just can't even believe that I'm doing this. I have merch. I have merch that you can buy, and it's right down there in the link below. And this is getting a little long-winded, and I think that we should probably go now. But just know that I care about you all very much. And that's it.
got to walk that lonesome valley. You got to walk it by yourself. There's no one here who can go there with you. You got to go.